have an abortion, that's evil. Forcing a 13-year-old to give birth to a baby conceived by rape, that's a-okay, according to right-wing Mississippians.
Nightmares becoming reality for so many. Disturbing real-life horror stories are surfacing in states with the most restrictive abortion bans. In a story first reported by Time magazine, this month, a girl only 13 years old gave birth after her mother said that her daughter was raped and impregnated by a stranger in Clarksdale, Mississippi last year.
Well, it's just disgusting how these right-wingers are. They pretend to care about kids, and then when something like this happens, they force them to give birth to a baby that they can't take care of.
The girl could not get an abortion and is now a mom going into the 7th grade. The mother of the girl tried to find an abortion clinic, but the last provider in Mississippi closed last summer after the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Clinic. That meant the closest abortion provider was in Chicago, Illinois, and that drive to Chicago would have been more than 9 hours from Clarksdale, Mississippi, and ultimately the mother decided it was too costly of a trip. Today, Mississippi, along with many of the states surrounding it, has a 6-week abortion ban with limited exceptions for rape or if the pregnancy is life-threatening. But these exceptions are rarely granted and poorly tracked. Joining me now, Greta Kemp-Martin, the litigation director for Disability Rights Mississippi. And
You can't listen to a story like this and still think that right-wingers care about kids when they claim it. They have no care whatsoever.
the Democratic candidate for Mississippi Attorney General. Greta, thanks for joining the show. First, I just want to get your reaction to this incredibly heartbreaking story of a 13-year-old girl who was raped, forced to give birth, and now is going to go into 7th grade.
Well, first, thank you for having me, Katie. This is unfortunately a common story. What we are seeing in this post-Dobbs landscape that was created by my opponent is that we have restrictive policies across the state that do not allow women to get the care that they need. And even the exceptions that are in place are narrowly interpreted and in some cases are fearfully applied. And in this case in particular, it failed. So even though there is a rape exception in Mississippi, even if the victim filed a police report, it appears that there's just no clear process for granting these exceptions when someone needs abortion care.
I bet in Mississippi, uh, this 13-year-old would have gotten more time in jail for having an abortion than the rapist will ever get if he's ever caught, which is probably not likely.
Yeah, and Greta, to your point about these exceptions, in the beginning of this year, the New York Times reported that in your state of Mississippi, those 2 exceptions exist since that state's abortion ban went into effect. But the state is requiring that a rape be reported to law enforcement in order to qualify for a legal abortion. So you actually have to go to the police and be victimized again, in my opinion. But even if an exception is made, that person still must travel out of the state to even obtain the procedure that potentially could save her life. So what needs to be done, Greta, to ensure that there's equity?
Yeah, what would have happened if this 13-year-old died during childbirth? What would right-wingers say about, oh, we care about kids, we want to protect them from abuse and stuff, and look at this. No protections by the right wing.
And not only abortion access and care for everyone, including the most vulnerable residents living in your state?
Well, I think my hope is that our federal government would eventually codify Roe, and this would not be a problem. But as we stand in this post-Dobbs world, I believe there has to be some broad interpretations of these exceptions. Even the exception that allows an abortion for the life of the mother, we have physicians who are fearful of even utilizing that exception to treat their patients because they're afraid they'll be penalized, they'll be criminalized, they'll have their license taken from them. So these exceptions do not work. So if you are going to place a 15-week abortion ban here in Mississippi, you have to be able to apply these exceptions in cases like we are seeing here in Clarksdale, Mississippi, like we have seen across the country where the life of the mother has been at risk We've had women being sent out to the parking lot and told, until your life is at risk, I cannot adequately treat you. So these exceptions have to be broadly interpreted. And honestly, we need more exceptions. You know, here in Mississippi, we do not have an incest exception. Um, our lawmakers have expressed that that will never happen in this state. So if you're going to have exceptions for adequate care, you have to have them broadly interpreted.
Yeah, Greta, that last abortion clinic in Mississippi, it closed after Dobbs came out last summer in 2022. But before Dobbs, patients could drive to a Memphis clinic that was only 90 minutes north, or to another clinic in Jackson just 2.5 hours south. What are your Mississippi residents telling you as you're campaigning to be the next AG about this attack on their reproductive rights?
So, you know, I do not believe that Mississippians' position on abortion is as clear cut as my opponent and her Republican friends would like to think. Right after Dobbs in June of 2020.
Well, even most Republicans still support access to abortion because they know it's their right to have that.
We had a slight majority of Mississippians that actually disagreed with the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, about 51%. And only about 18% of Mississippi voters want abortion to be illegal in all cases. And then as recently in June of this year, we have polling that says that individuals that voted in the Republican primary on August 8th, at about 45% supported repealing the trigger law that bans most abortions in this state. Plain and simple, Mississippians, especially Mississippi women, do not want the government interfering in their medical decisions. And I think time and time.
Yeah, this is funny. Right-wingers claim to hate big government until it comes to what people do in their bedrooms or private lives. Then they want to have the government come in and control them. Gay people, they don't want gay people being married or being able to do anything. Same with trans people. Women having abortion and what they do in their bedrooms, they don't like that. Right-wingers, they love big government.
Again, we are seeing that across the state, but our lawmakers and my opponent just continue to ignore the wishes of Mississippians.
Yeah, and Greta, Mississippi has the second highest maternal mortality rate in the United States, with 43 deaths per 100,000 live births. And black women in Mississippi are 4 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related complications as white women. So what does this say?
Yeah, and if right-wingers truly cared about women having babies, they would be doing something to decrease uh, the death of mothers during childbirth, but they don't do anything about that either. All they want to do is force women to have kids.
Say about Mississippi's priorities for reproductive health care as a whole?
Well, I believe it speaks volumes. Clearly, reproductive health care is not a priority for our lawmakers. Honestly, health care in general does not seem to be a priority for our lawmakers. We are one of the few states that have failed to expand Medicaid. We have maternal health care deserts across the state. So, of course, our women are dying because they can't receive the care they need in their communities. And time again, we have had Mississippians tell our lawmakers just loudly that we would like our health care improved. We would like Medicaid expansion to occur. And our lawmakers continue to ignore what Mississippians truly want and what they're begging for. We have Mississippians dying. This is a health care crisis, not just for our maternal health care, but all health care across the board. And the time is now to make a change.